What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including the police investigating Marty Jannetty's confession, Sammy Guevara has heat backstage due to his actions on AEW, Eric Bischoff returns to wrestling and debuts in AEW, AJ Styles answers whether he's going back to Impact Wrestling, and much more. But just before we get into the wrestling news, we've experienced a slight problem with our videos, and it's thanks to WWE. Now, as you might know, our videos consist of video and photos from WWE's archive, some of those photos being official photos from WWE.com and some of which have been screen capped by ourselves. Now, we've had problems in the past with video footage, which is fair enough, and we haven't challenged WWE for it as they do own the footage, and any excessive use of it should be blocked. But when we do get those claims, we re-edit the videos and then re-upload to avoid further claims. WWE normally doesn't have a problem with that. However, the most recent blocking of a video has no footage in it, and WWE have simply blocked it due to the photos being used. Again, the photos are owned by WWE, but they should come under fair use. We have used those photos specifically for critique and review, so we do satisfy any fair use rules. But what's funny is that this isn't a goof on WWE, as this has not been an automatic claim, some of which we've experienced in the past. They've actually had somebody manually check through these videos and flag them for copyright, which is pretty insane. Now, we're not the only channel that's experienced problem with this. Other YouTubers such as The Great One have also had problems with this, as he responded to our tweet saying, "Same, absolute bullshit," referring to a review of SmackDown and Raw which critiqued the show negatively. He recently tweeted, "Gotta love WWE blocking my every Raw SmackDown review with a negative title. Is WWE trying to censor anybody with a bad review of its show? If so, that's pretty outrageous. Fans and YouTubers have every right to critique the show and offer their opinion. What gives WWE? But should we challenge them on it? After all, we haven't broken any fair use rules, and we don't want this to happen in the future, not just to ourselves, but to other YouTubers as well. Let us know in the comments down below." Next up, Marty Jannetty's admission to ending a man's life. Now, did Marty Jannetty end a man's life? Well, that's a question the police want answered from the former rocker, who has been off on his proverbial rocker for some time, posting a confession on Facebook about making a man disappear when he was 13 years old. TMZ Sports reported that the Columbus Police Department in Georgia tells us straight up, "We are looking into this." TMZ Sports indicated, "We've reached out to Jannetty for comments several times but haven't heard back." The Facebook post has since been removed from his page. Removal or not, that is going to be used as evidence. And we certainly hope Marty's admission was just another of his often rambling and chemically fueled Facebook follies, otherwise he could be going away for the rest of his life. But do you think Jannetty really did end a man's life? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Pat McAfee punts Adam Cole, and a challenge has been made for TakeOver. And move over Randy Orton and let the professional show you how to punt kick a wrestler in the head. That's what happened on the 5th August edition of NXT, where a brawl between Indianapolis Colts kicker Pat McAfee and NXT superstar Adam Cole erupted. Now, you may recall Cole appeared on McAfee's radio show and stormed off the set after he felt McAfee insulted him. McAfee appeared on NXT to settle his dispute with Cole, and since this is wrestling, things only got worse as the two exchanged words again and Cole threw water at McAfee. This was funnily enough after they made up and announced that on Twitter just moments before the show. Eventually, Cole lunged at McAfee as officials tried to separate the two. Adam Cole crawled under the announcer's table and McAfee saw his chance, punt kicking Cole right in the head. Triple H shoved McAfee as the NFL star was escorted out of the building. Now, Triple H has issued a challenge on Cole's behalf to face him at NXT TakeOver. Is that a good idea? Would you guys want to see that match for TakeOver? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Sammy Guevara has heat backstage. Now, the 5th August Dynamite saw a brawl between the Inner Circle's Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy that saw Hardy eat a chair that Guevara threw at him, busting his head right open. According to Fightful Select, the chair was not gimmicked and Hardy was busted open the hard way, resulting in 13 stitches for him. Hardy's wife Rebby was understandably upset by Hardy's injury and tweeted, "Effing dumbass." Rebby wasn't the only person who was concerned, as during a recent episode of the Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez reported, Sammy got a very stern talking to from a number of people who were very upset with this. Obviously he was not supposed to throw the chair at full force into Matt Hardy's head. I don't know what happened. I guess he got excited, but that was brutal. Hopefully Matt didn't suffer a concussion in the process, and we'll cover any further developments of the situation. Next up, he's back, and better than ever. AEW Dynamite's debate between Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho featured a surprise moderator. Well, actually not a surprise if you watch our news video a few days back. No less than former WCW bigwig Eric Bischoff, who was a regular on TNT's Nitro show, but he was last seen on TNT 20 years ago. Bischoff looked great and actually added some legitimacy to the debate. There's no word on whether this is a one-time appearance or part of a return for Eazy-E, but would you guys like to see Bischoff back in wrestling as a personality? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, has Retribution been revealed? Now, if you're wondering who the masked menaces behind the WWE's new faction Retribution are, well, wrestling reporter Tom Colley thinks that he does, and he discussed some of the group's potential players during an episode of the Dropkicks Discussions podcast. From what I can tell, this was essentially the NXT call-ups who were coming up soon, who were sitting by the sidelines waiting for the opportunity. For example, Dominik Dijakovic and Chelsea Green are people that have been mentioned, maybe Vanessa Bourne as well. There is a plan and they did have the people they wanted in those outfits, but it sure doesn't feel like it sometimes, does it? When you consider that's really all we got. As always, things can change in a heartbeat in the WWE, so there's no telling for sure until the Retribution members are unmasked. Next up, SmackDown experienced some taping troubles. Speaking of last minute changes, it appears the WWE had some serious problems with the latest round of SmackDown tapings, resulting in the WWE only being able to tape one episode rather than the usual two. According to Dave Meltzer, things happened. I don't know if it was test related or what. There were key people on SmackDown that were scripted into the show, and the show ended up having the script torn apart and redone anyways as Raw was. On late Monday night, they made the call to only tape one SmackDown show instead of two on Tuesday. It was a complete mess on Tuesday, and so that show is on Friday. Now they have to come back on the 13th. Next up, Shayna saves Sasha Banks. An eagle-eyed fan caught a moment from the 3rd August Raw where Shayna Baszler saved Sasha Banks from what could have been a devastating injury. According to Twitter user Catch Wrestling, Shayna Baszler protected Sasha Banks' arm last night and prevented it from breaking. Sasha's thumb is up, meaning her elbow is especially prone to hypertension. Shayna rotates Sasha's thumb palm down, changing the angle of the elbow, making the roll to the rope safe. As we've shown in our videos on Secrets of the Ring, there are a number of hidden signals and nuances that wrestlers use to communicate with each other in the ring, keeping things as safe as possible. Thankfully, both Sasha Banks and Shayna Baszler were working their A-game, and we shudder to think what might have happened if Nia Jax had been working against the Boss that night. All we can say is that saving a person from injury shows their professionalness in the ring. Next up, Matt Cardona's AEW plans. Matt Cardona, aka former WWE superstar Zack Ryder, didn't waste any time showing up in AEW and is teaming with his real-life friend Cody Rhodes. Currently, Cardona is signed to a 5-appearance deal with AEW, but what are Cardona's plans for wrestling, and does he have plans on staying around in AEW? Cardona recently spoke to Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso about his status and goals, saying, "I haven't signed a long-term deal, but that is the plan. I didn't just come here to get a new shirt on Shop AEW, and it's a great shirt, the #1 shirt this week. I'm here to be Tag Champion, TNT Champion, and AEW Champion. And yes, I want that Jazzwares action figure. I'm here for the long haul." Cardona spent 15 years in the WWE, but despite strong fan support, never seemed to rise above the mid-card. Now he's determined to prove he's got the skills and drive to succeed. "I've been talking a big game, now I need to prove it. I've been working out harder than ever, and I hope people watching feel like they're on this ride with me. I have no problem working hard, and I want to be able to see the results. That's why AEW is the perfect environment for me to thrive. If you work your ass off, you'll see the results." AEW could be Cardona's chance to get over, but there are no guarantees in professional wrestling, so we'll have to wait and see how the fans react to him in his new home and whether he'll succeed there. Next up, AJ Styles talks the Good Brothers talking him into moving to Impact. Now that Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows are officially part of Impact Wrestling, the Good Brothers have made it clear they want AJ Styles to join him there, and they plan on pestering him until he does. So how does the Phenomenal One feel about his friends wanting to join them in the promotion? Speaking on his Twitch stream, Styles responded, "I don't know what to think about that. You guys know how I feel about that. Yeah, Gallows and Anderson are trying to get me back in Impact Wrestling is what they said. Never say never, but I also said that I would like to finish my career in the WWE, so we'll see." Adding the fact that Styles is under a long-term contract with the WWE and it's unlikely we'll see him in Impact very soon. And finally, Eric Bischoff discusses how wrestling success is hurting it. Last but not least, Eric Bischoff thinks he knows why wrestling isn't joining the success it had during the Monday Night War. Speaking on his podcast 83 Weeks, Bischoff explained, "Absolutely that's true, but then I asked myself, why is it true? Why is it happening? I think part of the challenge today is that there's so much wrestling out there and so many hours of it. There are 7 hours in WWE in primetime every week, just out of WWE. Now throw AEW into the mix, and if you're a hardcore fan, you've got Impact to watch and other smaller independents to watch. When you have that much content out there, it's inevitable that you're going to see so much of the same, whether it's skill sets, presentation, move sets, finishes where everybody's doing everything. The oversaturation of the product has led to the delusion of the individual type of characteristics that wrestling can enjoy and have and call their own because there's just so much of it out there, it's bound to be repetitive." But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.